American citizens are given many inalienable rights that many other countries' citizens around the globe don't have. We have certain privileges such as free and fair elections, unfettered access to gorgeous public parks and lands, and a level of personal autonomy that's nearly unmatched around the globe. But all of these great things come with responsibilities. We have a responsibility to uphold the rule of law, to pay taxes, and you have a responsibility to go out and vote. This last responsibility is the one I'll address today because Americans are becoming less and less involved in our election processes. This lack of interest among voters in our elections is defined by poll yes as voter apathy. The phrase, "I don't vote because I don't feel like my vote matters," is becoming increasingly popular in our up-and-coming generations and ethnic minority groups in the United States, but this sentiment ultimately hurts those groups the most. You can protest all you want, on the streets, on Twitter, at the dinner table, it doesn't matter. Unless you drive to the ballot box, because politicians aren't going to deal with the issues you care about unless you vote. Politicians ultimately care about one thing, and that's getting reelected. The fact of the matter is, presidents, senators, and representatives aren't going to do anything about the issues you care about unless you vote. Your vote represents your support for any candidate or issue. Today, I'll be speaking about the issues voter apathy creates and why your vote counts. I received most of my information from Northwest Florida State College databases and other government websites. First, I'll address the depth and the scale of voter apathy in this country and follow up with the unequal effects across different demographics. The first issue voter apathy creates is it produces politicians that don't represent the people they govern. The United States Elections Project in 2016 showed the results for the 2016 presidential elections. 49.6% of eligible voters didn't vote. That's almost double what both candidates received. If 2/3 of those people had voted for an entirely different candidate, that candidate would have won by a landslide. This is a massive issue because this means that a quarter of this country is supposed to be picking the person that represents all of us for 4 years. And this isn't a single isolated instance either. According to the US Census Bureau, in 2010, since 1960s, there has been a steady decline in voter turnout, with the main exception being in 2008. When former President Obama showed the highest voter turnout in 40 years. This trend sadly didn't follow, and voter turnout continued to decline. Voter apathy is a problem that's progressively getting worse with nothing seeming to slow it down. The only way our democracy functions is by the participation of the citizenry, and if you don't vote, you're not participating. Secondly, voter apathy affects younger generations and ethnic minorities much harder than anyone else. The electionproject.org in 2018 published a report showing voter trends by demographic, and they found that the 18 to 29-year-old age group since 1986 had the lowest incidences of voter turnout, while the 60 and older age group outperformed every other age group every single year. And this is despite the fact that government policy put in place now affects younger generations for longer than older generations. Along with this, ethnic minority groups in this country tend to have a much stronger level of voter apathy, with the exception of Black Americans. Hispanic Americans and Asian Americans have had a voter turnout rate of only 35%. The Washington Post did an article in 2014 showing a study saying a majority of people in minority ethnic groups in the United States believe they themselves are the most oppressed minority group in America. And the main reason these other ethnic minority groups don't vote is because they don't feel like their vote matters. But not voting is the root of their issue to begin with. If you want to solve this issue, then vote. Please vote. I don't care who you vote for. Vote for somebody. You can write in the name of whoever you want to vote on the ballot, and it has to count. In 2010, Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska won the vote by write-in ballot. The Washington Post wrote an article about it in 2010. If you don't want to leave your house, the Florida Division of Elections has a website with 4 different ways to apply for a mail-in ballot. And if you still want to vote in person, but you want to skip the lines, there's early voting. Unless you change your name or you move to another state, you should automatically be registered to vote when you get your driver's license. Voting is an incredibly important responsibility, and make sure you take a moment to get informed about the candidates before elections begin. My recommendation, go to ballotready.org. It's a bipartisan website. You type in your zip code and it will give you the name, the position, and the party affiliation of every candidate that rules over you. And when it's closer to election time, they'll tell you other candidates that are going to be on the ballot, and I'll link you to their websites. It takes less than 30 minutes to get a detailed understanding of a candidate on their website. To conclude, voter apathy is an incredibly dangerous problem that only about half of this country voted last election. If this rate continues to decrease, we're going to have problems. Voter apathy doesn't affect all groups equally, and it's important to recognize your biases and counteract them. There's no excuse not to vote. Your vote matters, and it's important you take this responsibility seriously. Stay safe, everybody.